Morning, everybody. Hello. Okay.
Good morning, teacher. Good morning,
Good
teacher.
morning. Hello. Okay. We're going to start. Yes, because we have lots of things to say today and to remember. And let's see. Okay. Here. Okay. Let me go back. Okay, we're going to start today with a review. Yes, we're going to review some topics that you already know. We're going to start with task-based. Yes, here are some questions. Let me see. Here are some questions. Please write on the chat the answer to one or two or three of them. Yes. What do you remember about task-based? Yes, if you want to answer the first one, just write number 1 and then the answer. If you want to answer number 6, write number 6 and then the answer. Please take a minute, remember. Let me see the chat. Ay. Let me see the chat thing. Here. Okay, chat. Hi, good morning. Take a couple of minutes to look at the questions. Try to answer one. Hello, Luz.
Hello.
I like the color of your head. Your headphones, they're really nice. The teacher is a guide. Very good, Jimena. Somebody else? What is task-based learning? Is when most of your materials are print activities. Okay, we will discuss that in a minute. Somebody else have an answer to another question? I know, it's a lot of thinking, right? Too early in the morning. Wake up, wake up. A sip to your coffee. Very good. Somebody else, the role of the student, the steps, anything that you remember. Yes, or what those tasks reminds you of. Task-based learning is based on different types of tasks in order to achieve a certain goal. Very good, okay. We're going to discuss that in a minute. Somebody else? I know you're thinking, I can see it on your faces. It's when you try to make the activities relate to real life tasks. Okay, good, Ana Maria. Good. I can see Pepe's face, you're very concentrated. One more minute and then I'll give you the answers, okay? Remember, it is not necessary, but if you want to open your camera so we can see each other, it's our moment when we see each other. Yes, that would be nice to see your faces. One more, what is the main focus on TBL? To achieve a certain goal in real life situations, very good. Tasks are also said to improve learner motivation and promote learning, very good, okay. So what is task-based learning and how does it work? Yes, task-based is a methodology, yes, an approach, student-centered. That means that it's definitely the student, the main participant in this process of learning. Yes, it's learner-centered, so it's not teaching, it's learning. What is the main important thing is that the student plan, the teacher plan task and activity are real life activity. Yes, Maritza, using authentic materials. The idea is that the student feels in a real life environment, so he performed a task. For example, you're going to the airport and you're going to buy a ticket. Yes, so probably you show your students a ticket with the information of a plane you took. Yes, what is the idea that the teacher plans? I will explain in a minute. What is the role of the teacher? Yes, but the idea is that the student centers himself in a real life situation. Yes, and of course planned by the teacher. Yes. What are the steps on TBL? That's the pre-tasks. When it's kind of, well, Seku is going to explain around the dimensions, yes, but it's to set up the task. Probably you can use a brainstorm about the topic, yes, probably you can introduce the task by asking questions, or probably you can provide them with, for example, in this case that I already said, the ticket, yes, the plane ticket, you ask them to analyze the ticket, what does it say, what information is in there, yes, so you start setting up the situation, yes, the real life situation. Then the task cycle, that's when students start working on whatever task the teacher planned, yes. The main idea is that the students have a discussion, use the language, so now they are learning by themselves what type of language they need to use in order to complete that activity. You as a teacher don't tell them exactly what to say or which structures, which vocabulary they must use. They need to figure it out with your guidance. Yes. And then the last one is the language focus or the presentation of the task. Yes, is when the task is completed and they present to the teacher or to the others, they complete the task. Yes. What is the role of the teacher? As we already said, the teacher is a guide, is an observant. Why? Because he must monitor what students are doing. Yes, if he sees that one student is taking a different path, probably it's okay, but if he is going too far away, then the teacher must bring them back. Yes, if they have a lot of questions, then the teacher is monitoring, is checking out what they are doing. Yes, in order for the students to complete or achieve that goal that you mentioned before. Yes. At some point, if there are too many questions, after they are discussing and they are having troubles on what to say or how to perform, probably the teacher can explain a little bit yes, grammar or vocabulary, but it's not the main idea that the teacher explains, yes. What is the role of the student? Well, he is the main actor in this situation, yes. He is the one who has to investigate, produce, comprehend, it says there, yes, and interact with the language. He is the one who does the most part of the learning, yes. He is not receiving the information from somebody else. He is in charge of on his own learning, how far he wants to go, yes. And what is the main focus? As you said, yes, task-based is that students experience a real life situation. Yes, so because we have checked many times, probably you study it like that. Yes, when there is a conversation and you have to roll or to repeat, yes, the same conversation or just change some words so that you're repeating. Yes, you are being modeled what to say and how to say it. But in this case, the student figures out what to say and how to do it. Yes, as I already mentioned, grammar and vocabulary, they are not the main focus. The main focus is to communicate. Yes, the skills are more important than the grammar and the vocabulary. Of course, there should be grammar and vocabulary because they have to produce something. So they need, yes, they need a grammar and they need vocabulary, but it's not the main attention on this approach. Okay. Uh, and that's it. So far, do you have questions? Did you remember this or not? Yes? So. Don't worry. At the end, you do remember, very good. Yes, at the end, Teacher Seku and I, we have prepared some information for you to expand this in case you have questions, yes? But the main idea is that you remember that this is student center, so the student is the main actor in this scene, yes? And it's a real life situation. Keep that in mind because you're going to use that for your virtual learning environment, the one that you're going to create. Yes, Ana Maria, you raise your hand?
There's a lot of students that can enter the.
Let me see.
If you could
Of course.
check that.
Sorry.
It's Jennifer, Cindy.
Sorry, they log out because of a reason they are doing it.
Kat, Catherine.
Yes, Gus. Yes, I think everybody is in now. Yes? Sorry. Okay. Don't worry, we will share this presentation and more material, yes? But for the ones who miss it, we just review what task-based is. Yes, it's an approach to learn through placing the student in a real life situation, yes, in which he has to figure out what to say and how to say it based on what the student and what the teacher plan. Of course, the teacher has to plan something, yes. Of course, the teacher has to have in mind which type of language they are supposed to be learning, in which type of vocabulary they are supposed to be producing, yes, or using in order to produce. Yes, they are important, but they are not the main focus. Remember that. And then, so task-based learning is language learning by doing. Yes, the student is involved all the time. Okay, as I told you a couple of minutes ago, yes, you're going to focus or you have to have in mind this task-based because The recommendation is that you focus your virtual learning environment, the one that you're going to create at the end of this module, in a skill: listening, reading, writing, or speaking. Yes. The productive ones are speaking and writing, so probably think on those. Yes, rather in the content, focus it on a skill. That doesn't mean, as I told you before, that you don't have to have in mind grammar and vocabulary. Of course you do, but they are not the main or the most important thing. Yes? We are also going to review dimensions of learning. Yes? And Seku, are you around? Seku is going to help us review this part. Okay?
Hi
Yeah.
guys. Bonjour. Comment ça va? It's good to talk to you. I won't say it's good to see you because I can't see you, but it's good to talk to you. And this is a topic that you guys know it very well, I'm sure, but we wanted to go over, so just to remind you what these are about, okay? And these are basically the dimensions of learning, the ones you guys have been using or used last basically year to structure your lessons. Remember, this is basically the sequence that your lesson plans followed in my class last year, basically, okay? And we're just gonna review what they are about, okay? And it's nothing new. Again, it's just a reminder of what they are about. The fantastic thing about TBL is that if you plan your lesson according to TBL, automatically you will make students experience dimensions 1, 2, 3, and 4. Remember that task-based learning does not make students experience the dimensions of learning in that order necessarily, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing because of the unique procedure that task-based uses, okay? So again, if you plan your lesson, your teaching, your sequence according to TBL, automatically, without thinking about it, you will make students experience dimensions 1, 2, 3, and 4. You will just need to add an activity for dimension 5. Those who did a lesson plan according to TBL, remember this, okay? Anyway, let's go over that. Dimension 1, attitudes and perceptions, okay? About learning. Can somebody, well, actually, let me call somebody, specifically. Adolfo, speak up, please. What do you remember about dimension 1? Lo bueno que aquí tengo los nombres, si no, ya no me acordaba.
I remember that dimension 1 was to awake the student.
Okay, thank you. Let's have somebody else. Cindy, tell us about dimension 1, what you remember. You remember? Cindy? Finish your taco, the taco bite that you took, probably you are having breakfast just now. Let's have Kike in the meantime. Kike, what do you remember about dimension 1? Turn on your microphone, please.
What I can remember is that it's basically where you try to activate the children's mind or the student's mind with activity that's not necessarily focused on the finish line itself. I don't quite. That's all I can remember.
Exactly. Thank you, Kike. Yes, that's what the purpose of dimension 1 is exactly what it says right there. Have students develop, increase a positive attitude and perception about learning. Okay, that is what needs to be done first. Include an activity, something that will make students feel good, feel comfortable. They will like, that they will enjoy, because if they enjoy it, if they like it, they're gonna develop a positive attitude towards learning. They won't think learning is difficult, okay? So that's why it's the first thing. In other words, And that's why you remember the first activity in each lesson plan was a game, a competition, something fun to develop, create that positive attitude, that positive perception, that pleasant atmosphere in the classroom or in the learning environment, okay? That is the purpose of the first dimension, to develop that type of attitude. And like Ika said, it doesn't have to be connected to the content, the topic of the lesson, okay? It doesn't have to. If it's possible, fantastic. But if not, don't break your head, trying to find an activity that is fun, attractive, interesting, and at the same time is connected to the topic you're going to have students learn. Not necessarily. It can be something completely isolated from the topic of your lesson, the objective of your lesson, okay? It can be a game, any activity that has nothing to do with your lesson, it doesn't matter. That's fine. Again, the purpose of dimension 1 is to have students develop or create that positive atmosphere, that positive attitude, make them want to be there, make them want to learn as much as possible, of course. All right. That's the idea of the first activity. Make them have them have some fun. Okay. That is the purpose of the first dimension. Which in your case is going to be easy because if you guys are working online, you're going to learn later on how to use different resources, online resources, to have some fun. Kahoot, Genially, Jeopardy Labs, any activity from these websites that make students have fun could do it. Okay, that could be considered dimension, your dimension 1 activity. So it's really simple. Okay, it's really simple in this case. All right, because there are lots of resources available online to make students have some fun before they start learning, the hardcore content of the lesson. Okay. Then we move on to dimension number 2. As the name says it, acquiring and integrating knowledge, okay? This is the time when any new knowledge, anything they're going to learn is learned. I'm not gonna say taught, especially now because students are gonna learn by themselves pretty much, okay? So this is when, if you're gonna teach, if the students need to learn, and if the purpose of the lesson, is to learn new vocabulary, the meaning of new words. In dimension 2 is when they learn what the words mean, how they are spelled, how they're pronounced, etc., etc. Okay, if it is a grammar topic, the same thing. If it is learning how to write an email, this is when the students get the information, get the knowledge, okay, the declarative knowledge to be able to write an email. All right, so here you tell them, you start like this, how many paragraphs, etc., salutation, and all the elements of an email, okay? That's when they learn whatever new knowledge you're gonna help students learn. This is when you help the student learning. Of course, you can activate prior knowledge. Whatever they know before, you add it here, okay? If you're gonna teach them present continuous, or they need to learn present continuous, you might say, do you remember present simple? Well, it's the same. All you gotta do is add ing at the end of the verb, something like that, okay? But this is where the students learn new knowledge, where if you wanna put it like that, new knowledge is presented, new knowledge is learned, okay? That is the purpose of this dimension, all right? Whatever is new, whatever you're gonna have students learn, or whatever you want to review, if it's a review, this is when it happens, okay? Then we move on to dimension 3. In theory, this is in theory, in dimension 2, the students learned, again, take the example of the email. They learn how to write the email. They know the theory, let's say, or they know the elements of an email. They know in theory how to write it, okay? Now we're gonna have students extend and refine that knowledge. In other words, we're gonna check if they really learned what they were supposed to learn, okay? If the email has 10 elements, here we check if they know which elements those are. If they learned what is a salutation, here we check if they actually learned what goes in the salutation. If they learned that the email has to include 3 paragraphs, here we check if they actually learned that information, okay? So we extended, if they didn't learn the 10 elements, they learned 8. Here we do some activity that's gonna make them reach, get the 10 elements, the two elements that were missing, we make sure here that they learned them, okay? If there was something they learned, but it was misunderstood, we refine it, we make it better, okay? Any misunderstanding, doubts, or questions are answered here, so the students, all the knowledge they were supposed to get, they get it. By the end of dimension 3, they should have gotten the knowledge. You should have checked that they learned what they were supposed to learn, etc., okay? So that's the purpose of dimension 3. Extend in case they didn't learn everything they needed to learn, and refine in case they learned it, but something was misunderstood or mislearned, if you want to put it like that, okay? So here, as a teacher, you check or we do something to make sure the students learned well and appropriately what they were supposed to learn, okay? Any questions up to here, up to dimension 3? No, teacher, you're the best. Okay, thank you, whoever that was. All right, let's move on
I
to
was going to
dimension.
ask.
Oh, go ahead, please, Luz, Ana Luz.
It's like your second chance to see if everything is fine.
In dimension 3?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. And you can be done in many different ways. You can actually ask them, which are the 10, for example, going back to the example, which are the 10 elements of on an email? And they gotta tell you, okay? What do you write in the salutation? And they have to know that. They consciously need to be aware of that information, okay? Or unconsciously sometimes. For example, if they learn present continuous, but they don't know they learn present continuous, and you ask them, you show them a picture and you ask, what is Anna doing? And they respond, oh, Anna is, what are you doing? She's writing on her notebook, okay? Maybe they don't know they're using present continuous, but when they tell you Anna is writing in her notebook, you can tell they have learned the structure or the grammar topic correctly because they're giving you an example, a sentence in present continuous. So in that case, you're checking they have acquired the grammar topic, okay? They won't tell you, oh, it's subject plus verb. No, again, sometimes it's conscious if they learn consciously whatever content, or unconsciously if they learn unconsciously. You gotta check that they learned unconsciously, that whatever they learned is there, but you don't ask them, what is the structure of present continuous, okay? But you can ask them to say a question. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. Anybody else? Any other questions, please? Speak now or hold your peace forever. No, not forever, for the rest of the session. Anyway, so basically dimension 3, dimension 2, they learned what they were supposed to learn. Dimension 3, you checked, you made sure they learned properly what they were supposed to learn. You can ask them questions. Any way you want to check that learning was obtained. In dimension 4, once everything has been learned, once you checked that things were learned properly, then in dimension 4, you ask them to use the knowledge meaningfully. What does that mean? That means you ask them to apply that knowledge in a real or semi-real life situation. Of course, sometimes it's impossible for them if they learn future will and you tell them that they're gonna that they're gonna use that knowledge as if they, when they were traveling, it's impossible to do that in the classroom, of course, or in their at home, where they are probably learning. So you give them a situation, you set up a scenario that's gonna make them use that topic at some point in the task, okay? Again, when you ask them to apply that knowledge meaningfully, to use it meaningfully, it doesn't mean they have to use present continuous, for example, in every single sentence. No, it means that you're gonna give them a situation in which they will have to use present continuous at some point. Once, twice, maybe 3 times, it doesn't matter, okay? Again, the purpose of this dimension is to apply the knowledge, not to use it repeatedly, okay? So if you give them a situation and they only use present continuous once in that situation, that's okay, because they're applying their knowledge. That is the purpose, to use it meaningfully, not to repeat it like a parrot, okay? So that can be done in dimension 3. They can do repetitions and stuff. But in dimension 4, all we want them to do is to be able to apply that knowledge. That without the trick of this dimension is that you gotta give them a situation in which, without telling them to use, again, for example, present continuous, they have to use present continuous. You don't tell them, oh, do an activity and use present continuous, because the moment you tell them use present continuous, it is no longer meaningful, okay? No, you have to set up the situation in such a way that without telling them about it, they use present continuous. It's part of the activity. That means, because if they succeed to do so, that means they are able to apply the knowledge, okay? For example, if you want them to use simple past, this is the easiest example of all. You tell them, for example, imagine you run into a friend that you haven't seen in 10 years, and you sit down at a bar or a coffee place, and you have coffee or you have a drink, and you talk to each other about what you have done in the past 10 years. Automatically, without you telling them to use simple past, they are going to use simple past automatically. That you can talk about the past years. So I'm not telling the students, oh, use simple past. No, but the situation itself, the scenario I set for them is going to make them use simple past or present perfect or past, present perfect continuous. I don't know. Okay. So that's the trick here. You're going to come up with a situation that automatically, without telling them what topic, language topic to use, they will have to use it. And again, it can be once, twice, 3 times. It doesn't matter how many times they use it, as long as they apply it. They use it. That is the point. Okay, they have to use it. For some topics, it's easier. For others, it's more difficult, but it's all the same. Again, for the email, giving you the example of the email, you tell them, imagine that you want to apply for, you're going to go on and participate in an exchange program. You have to write an email to the dean of the school explaining your reasons why you want to go there. So send an email, tell them that you want information about the program, and then you send the email. You provide a real or as real as possible a scenario for them to apply their knowledge. If they learn the elements of the email, now they have the chance to apply that knowledge and actually write and send the email. Of course, they won't send the email to the dean of the school. They'll send the email to you, pretending you are the dean of the school. That's dimension 4. They have to apply that knowledge, okay? Use it meaningfully in a real or semi-real life situation. That's the point here, okay? And then we have the last dimension. Once the students have learned, have used, have applied the knowledge, we want them to analyze, to develop their thinking skills, to analyze, to reflect, to make decisions, etc., etc. So in dimension 4, to be creative, to develop these thinking habits, we gotta give them a situation that makes them evaluate their learning, their actions, not what the teacher told them, not the materials they were given to evaluate the teacher. No, they have to evaluate themselves. They have to analyze themselves, what they did, how they did it, how effective the materials they used, the strategies they employed, how effective they were, how much those helped them learn, okay? That's the point. Not to assess, evaluate, analyze the teachers or his or her teaching, no. They have to assess, reflect about themselves, what they did to learn, how effective those were, okay? Which strategies, which materials helped, which ones didn't, okay? What they can change, what can they adapt, what can they modify to make the learning more efficient. All right, that's the point here. They need to analyze them and discover all these things by themselves. Of course, we cannot just say, analyze what you did and reflect on your learning. No, we have to give them some scaffolding. Remember that word? We gotta give them some help to have them analyze. And you guys remember this? Using questions is the easiest, perhaps, strategy to have students reflect. Give them some questions that will make them analyze their learning, reflect about themselves and their learning, things like that. That's one option always, okay? There are others. Nefer uses a format, a very, very easy to use format, okay? That can also be used to analyze their learning, but there has to be something done. The students need to do something so they can reflect on what they did and how they did it, analyze it, so they can do it better. If we do not nurture, if we do not foster this type of analysis, the students will keep doing what they have always done, and they won't try any new strategies. They won't discover other ways of learning, They won't look for other materials, other resources, and they won't expand their learning repertoire. Okay, that is the purpose of reflection. So they can expand and have more resources, more strategies, more materials, et cetera, and the bigger, the better, the more, the merrier, remember? So that's the point here. If I have always learned vocabulary by doing drills, I need to learn other ways of learning vocabulary, and maybe those other ways are more effective than doing drills. That's the point here. But students need to discover that by themselves. Every student is different. We cannot tell, Kike, you're gonna learn better if you do drills. Luz, you're gonna learn better if you draw the meaning of the words. We can tell them that because every student is different. Unless you know the person really, really, really well, which when you have a lot of students, that rarely happens. The students need to discover for themselves what is the best thing for them, how they learn best, when, individually, with somebody else, in complete silence, with noise around. They need to discover those things, and that's the point of this dimension. They can discover how they learn best, what materials help them learn best. And once they know that, suggest them to use whatever helps them learn the best, okay? Obviously. Does that make sense? Again, dimension 4 has nothing to do with the topic they learn. In this dimension, if you are gonna have students answer questions, don't ask them, when do we use present continuous? How do you write an email? No, it has nothing to do with the topic, the language topic they learn, they practice, or they use in the lesson. It has to do with their learning practices, the activities they did, the materials they use. It has to do with that. You don't ask them anything about the topic they learned, okay? Nothing in relation to that. So if you think about it, dimension 1 and 5 are isolated from whatever content they learn. The content they learn is related to dimensions 2, 3, and 4, and that's it. Dimension 5, you don't need to say, you need to ask anything or include anything related to the topic. You could and say, well, when in your life are you going to use present continuous, but it's not as needed or worth it as if it is to have them reflect about their learning practices and how they can improve them. That's the key here. Analyze what they did, how they did it, to think of ways to improve that, okay? That's the point, to have them think of other ways to improve their learning practices, okay? All right, done talking. Do you have any questions? Answer questions, please. Ask questions. I'll be happy to answer them.
Teacher, I have a question.
Please.
How many activities are recommended to use in dimension 2, or does it depend on the subject?
It depends on the subject. It depends how much you're gonna teach. Again, let me give you an easy example. If you're gonna teach the students, or if they need to learn present grammar, present simple, present continuous. Let's go back to present continuous. What of present continuous do they need to learn? The structure, use, and everything about affirmative sentences, negative sentences, interrogative sentences. If they need to learn all of that in one session, you probably will need more than one activity, because those are like 3 subtopics of the same topic: affirmative, negative, interrogative, 3 different structures. That you will need more than if you only need to teach, if the students only need to learn affirmative sentences and when to use present continuous. That can be done in one activity could include that. So the more they need to learn about the topic, the more activities you're gonna have. In my opinion, and language learning wise, students should not learn too much at the same time. In one lesson is enough. I think it could be enough to have them learn the structure of present continuous, conjugation of verbs, auxiliary, the ending of the verbs, the general rule for verbs in present continuous, when to use it, and the structure. Affirmative sentences can be all of that in one lesson. Once they have learned that, the next lesson they could learn negative sentences, and the next one interrogative sentences, something like that. So how many activities? It can be 1, but again, it depends on how much content they need to learn, okay? But again, I would suggest it could be 1 activity, all right? Again, with task-based, the thing is that because they are not learning consciously, you will need several activities in the pre-task. definitely you need to give them whatever task the students need to perform or create in the pre-task section. They have to have an example of the task that you expect them to produce. So that's one activity right there. So you need 2 or 3 more in the pre-task, okay? The task is really simple. There are 3 activities that are really simple. And the post-task, you will need 2 more activities. So it depends on the topic, okay? It depends on how much content they need to learn, all right? Another
Yes,
question.
thanks, teacher.
You're welcome. Another question, guys, girls. Ask now. Teacher, how do I connect the dimensions with TBL? There's not a matching, a clear matching here, because in the pre-task, the students will be doing dimension 1, 2, and 3, probably at the same time, okay? In the task, when they present the task, that's, in the task, in the planning report, all of that they will be doing dimension 4, but also dimension 2. So they're all mixed, okay? So when you plan your lesson according to TBL, don't think about the dimensions of learning. If you do a good lesson plan according to TBL, automatically, without thinking about it, you will be using dimensions 1 through 4, okay? So plan your lesson according to the stages of the sequence in task-based. Pre-task, task with the 3 subcategories, and post-task with the 2 subcategories, okay? And there you will have a dimensions 1, 2, 3, and 4 present somehow. You just need to add another activity for dimension 5, which is really simple, okay? You could use, a Google document to have the students answer some questions for dimension 5. You can send a survey to answer questions in dimension 5. You can have them, you can submit, Nefer, can you remind me the format you use for dimension 5, please, if you are there?
Yes, I am here. Sometimes I use a checklist depending on the level,
and the other one?
of, I don't remember.
A couple years ago, every student used it because you show it to him and they were like, it had a name like it was a chart that included.
Tell us your grade? No. No, I don't remember.
Anybody remembers? The Waka, no, I don't remember. But it made them reflect about what they learned, how they learned, something like that, or what they can do better. Anyway, if we remember, we'll let you guys know. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions about dimensions of learning, you guys?
Me, teacher.
Yes.
I have a question about the scaffolding. We can use them about in dimension 3 or 4, or there's a specific used in a specific dimension.
Basically, you have to give them a scaffolding in all of in every dimension. Except for dimension 1, you don't have to necessarily give them scaffolding. But dimension 2, yes, you gotta remember, like Nefer said, in this method approach in TBL, you don't teach them anything. You don't explain, as a teacher, you don't explain the topic. They need to learn by themselves, but you need to provide them with the resources and materials that they will need to achieve such learning. So what are those materials you give them is what we call scaffolding. Whatever you're gonna provide them so they can learn by themselves, those are gonna be the scaffolding, and you need to give them that in dimension 2, 3, 4 is the situation basically. And dimension 5 as well. Going back to TBL, in the pre-task, we include several activities, and all of those, you gotta give them scaffolding especially in the pre-task, plenty of scaffolding in every activity you include in the pre-task, okay? In the task also, your instructions, the guidelines you give them can be considered the scaffolding. In the post-task, you can also need to give them scaffolding as well. So at every point in TBL, you need to give them scaffolding basically. Again, except for dimension 1. when you ask them to play a game with Kahoot, when you create the Kahoot, basically, well, no scaffolding given. If they get the answers correctly, fine. If they don't answer them correctly, it doesn't matter. Nothing is going to happen there. So in that case, you don't need scaffolding. Okay, good question.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, teacher.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay.
They are super intelligent.
I know they are. Yeah, and they know this topic,
Yes.
like the palm of their hands. Okay. Anyway, but again, if you guys have questions, probably when you start working and when you start doing stuff, questions may come up. You might not be sure which dimension you create an activity. You are not sure which dimension that makes students experience. Just let me know, or Nefer, and we'll help you. We'll be happy to help you with that, okay? Thank you very much for your time, you guys, and I'll be around if you need my help. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And very quickly, because we are taking too long now, very quickly, a reminder, I think you checked how to write objectives with Maria, yes or no? In designing materials, right? Yes? Yes? I think you checked that? Yes? So very quickly, we will check. Remember that Bloom's taxonomy, it's really important. Yes, using the verbs according to what you expect them to do. Yes, and here are the five habits of mind. Yes, what you want them to do. Yes, from knowledge to their analysis, the creation of their own learning. Yes, if you have questions or I'm going too fast, let me know. I'm going fast because the time. Yes, but if you don't remember something or you need a clarification for something, open your mic and let me know. So for the dimensions, we were going to do an activity, yes, that you were going to tell me which verbs we were going to use in each dimension. But quickly, can somebody tell me one or two? Do you remember any of those verbs? Anybody? The verbs that we use, produce, very good. Produce, where will you apply produce? In which dimension will you use produce? Probably extending, probably using knowledge meaningful. Yes. Okay. Well, we have analyze, we have create, we have think, we have repeat, we have compare. Yes, there are lots of verbs. Applying dimension 4, very good. Yes. And go to the next one. Right. Okay, I went too fast. Okay. So this is basically how the objective should be structured. Yes, it is a student-centered. That's the first thing. Yes, as we have been mentioning. You need the taxonomy to establish how far the student should go. What is the objective of the student, or what he or she should produce in his mind or with his knowledge. To use the skills, remember, we've been telling you to use the skills, reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Yes, which skills you want them to use is really important. Even though the content, yes, is not the main focus, it should be included because it's the mean. It's a media which they will use in order to learn. As also is the material. Yes, they need to know, or you need to know these two things. So, so you create the environment for them to learn appropriately. Yes, and how far is as learning, as Seku mentioned, for example, if you want only to learn want them to learn only the main structure for present continuous, or you want them to extend it to affirmative sentences, negative sentences, questions. Yes, that's how far you want them to go. Okay. Here we have an example. Yes, the order is disorganized, but it's because of a reason. Yes, as it is a student center, we always start with the student will be able to what do we want them to do. Yes, probably we don't have it clear now. Yes, what exactly we want them to do. So but we know that we want them to use reading. Yes, that's a skill that we want them to practice. We have the vocabulary. Most of the times the vocabulary is given. Yes, or the grammar structures are given, so you already have that handy. And the materials is also something you need to decide. Yes, according to everything. And well, how far you want to go here? 6, include the right association between the image. Yes, so what we want them to do is to conclude. I left it at the end because probably with all this information you get here, or with this you get this some of this information. Yes, they are correlated. So this is how I think my internet is here. This is how the appropriate objective should look like at the end. Yes, the student will be able to conclude in the skill reading with the material, cards, flashcards, the target vocabulary, the target grammar structure, or both. Yes, remember the simpler, the better. Yes, and here is the vocabulary that they're going to learn, including the right association between the image and its word. Yes, that's what you want them to do in this example. Okay, and do you have questions about that? I think you check it with Maria. That's why I just briefly explain or remind you about it. But do you have questions? Yes. In case you have questions here, we will share with you this one. Yes. I will paste here the link. The task space, there is a document that we found that it's very simple, very short, very useful. Yes, in case you have questions, you can go back there. Here is a presentation that Alex prepared, but it was very long, so I shortened it. But it's more complete about how to write objectives. Yes, this video is also on the platform. It's very short and very easy to understand on task-based learning. It gives you examples. It gives you exactly an example of how that a teacher applied. And here I do want to show you this format, but I don't know if I have it handy. Let me see. I think you check the platform now, and week 3 is it's available for you now. Yes, and week session 2. Here, this is a brief explanation of task-based. And where's the video? Here, task-based learning, there's the video that I mentioned, but it's also on the link. Yes. And tomorrow you will be working with teacher Vane and teacher Alex on this format. But I wanted to show it to you because you need to start thinking about some stuff. Yes, here, this one. No, this one. Let me see if you're going to be able to see it. No, here. Let me see, let me see. Keep. Second week. Here. This is the format. Can you see it? Yes? Okay. This is the format that you will be working with teacher Alex and teacher Vane tomorrow. Yes. But you need to start thinking now on your on what are you going to do, or how are you what do you plan to do, what your task should be in your virtual learning environment. Yes. And the objectives of your virtual learning environment, because this one will be for this week. This is the first draft. I mean, these are like the first ideas you have. It's not that this one is exactly the one that you're going to apply. You're going to design based on this information, and then you're going to check with your blankets whether you're in the right path, or we can help you, or probably we give you more ideas and then you decide to change your mind. But you need to start now thinking on what your product will be. Yes, start thinking on that, because it's Tuesday and this one is for Friday, so you have time to analyze a little bit. Yes, Jose Luis?
Sorry. This is for like, kind of like for the team, right?
Yes, this is one per team. One per team.
One per team?
Okay. Yes. So if your blankets don't look for you, you look for them in order to check this format with them before you hand them in. Not because it is incorrect or not, because if you need help or you need guidance on what to teach, or on ideas on what to include, then that's why we are there for you. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Alex and Vane are going to explain this further tomorrow, but you need to start thinking on it. Yes, now. I think that's it for today. We took a little bit longer than expected, but do you have questions? No? Everybody's clear? I mean, so far it's not a task, but this will be due on Friday. Yes, this proposal, this first draft of your virtual learning environment. Okay? If you have it, yes, Jen.
Sorry, can you make sure to share the recording as soon as possible? Because sometimes, I don't know if you guys forget, but you don't share them.
The link?
Yeah.
It's there. I posted a picture yesterday.
Yeah,
It's permanent.
So if I go in and I click on it, it'll show the recording?
The recording. No, the recording. Let me check with Aaron, because he's in charge of the account. So the recordings of the sessions are on his hands, you know, in his computer. Let me check with him. Yes, but the link
forgets to upload them.
I'll remind him. Yes, I'll be right behind him, asking him to do it. Yes, I promise.
Yeah.
But the link for the session, I posted a picture. It is here. Yes, you just log in, and under our pictures, here you find the link for the session, for every session. Yes?
Yeah.
It will be there all the time. So every time we have a synchronous session, it's there, the link. Okay, so you don't have to wait for it on Messenger or WhatsApp or whatever. It's there. Okay. Somebody posted a question. Okay, no, it was Alex saying bye. You don't have homework for tomorrow? No, it's not for tomorrow. It's due to Friday, but I suggest you start thinking about it. Yes, because then you have other things to do, like Fleckali and English. Yes. No more questions? Questions? Yes? No? Maybe? Maybe tomorrow when you start thinking about this. Okay, so I will post the presentation on Facebook, yes, for you to have it in case you have questions or you want to check the links. Yes, all the documents are open for you to check at any point. Yes, the links that are on here on the presentation, the links that are on the presentation, they are open for you to check at any time. Yes, so I will share it right now, the presentation. Yes, Ana Maria. You raise your hand, Ana Maria? No?
I don't have very clear the project we are doing, so I don't know if you already mentioned it before or this is the first time.
With Aaron yesterday, you checked what a virtual learning environment is. Yes? You
Yes.
are going to design by the end of the semester a virtual learning environment. That means that you're going to create a kind of a web page, but it's not exactly a web page. Yes, it's a virtual learning environment in which you're going to teach something, or you're not going to teach. The users are going to learn because it's going to be task-based, so it's going to be student-centered. So you are supposed to create this environment online, which has all the characteristics or all the instructions, directions, the materials, the scaffolding they need in order to complete a task and achieve a goal.
Yes, like Eduk, kinda.
Yes and no. Because that depends on how the teacher uses Eduk. Yes. Remember yesterday we checked with Aaron that probably the Facebook group could be a virtual learning environment depending on how the teacher uses them. Yes, so our group now is not a virtual learning environment because we are just using it as a communication mean. Yes, so we teachers, we are not posting information, we are not posting trigger questions, we are not posting materials, and we are not posting any tasks so far there. Yeah, so there's no learning involved in that Facebook group. So it is not a virtual learning environment. You're going to create a space in which learning is involved, in which the user has to learn something. Yes?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Jen, you raise your hand.
Yeah, so in order for us to design the virtual learning environment, we have to do a lesson plan, yeah?
Yeah.
Which was why the teacher Seku went over the dimensions of learning. Who's gonna give us the subject of the lesson plan, or is that for us to choose?
No, that's what you're going to discuss tomorrow with Alex. Yes, Alex, are you around? Should
Hello.
I say something or do you say something or tomorrow?
Well, hi everyone, just real quick. I'm really happy to see you again. Yes, tomorrow with Professor Vanessa and me, we're going to check everything about the profile of the students and anything that you need so you can start creating. Something that I can say in advance is that we are going to need your needs analysis from the last semester. Okay, just look for it, check it out, and we're going to need that document. Okay, so it's going to be real quick and easy, nothing to worry about, because we are going to get a big advance on that. Okay, so I'll see you tomorrow.
I don't know if that answers your questions or gives you more questions. Yes, Jen?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Questions? Yes, it's getting late. Probably you have an English class or probably you haven't had breakfast. Yes, so it was my pleasure to listen to you, to read your comments, to see your faces and listen to your voices. Yes, and thank you very much. Remember, you can approach any of your blankets at any point, or you can pose questions on your groups. Yes, and we will be happy to help. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye.
Be good. Stay safe.
Nice class.
Thank you. Bye.